From experience, we know that first getting into the hobby of reenacting can be very, very intimidating.
Oh, anyone care for smoke? You?
I know that when I started out, I had no idea what I was doing. You probably didn't either.
Yeah, I thought I had such a grasp on World War II, but once I got into the world of reenacting, it was like, I don't know anything.
Yep, I did too. I remember that at 14 years old, I was like,
yeah.
What did I get myself into? Looking back on how I started, I've come a very, very long way, and I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah, everybody starts somewhere, and
yeah,
you just have to have the willingness to learn, and you become so much better.
Yep, agreed. So today I've got with me Grant Brooks, Lieutenant Grant Brooks, and he's going to be helping me discuss with you all how to not be intimidated by the hobby. As we said, there's a lot that goes into it as far as detail and historical accuracy, and it can be very, very hard to get things perfect.
Yeah.
But today we want to talk about the fact that starting out, you don't need to start out perfect. Yeah.
So just to kind of start, Will and I, we are both doing impressions based off of the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment during World War II. The unit throughout the war had lots of uniforms, lots of gear and whatnot, and so it's hard sometimes to get those details right. And with a unit with such esteemed history, you want to make sure you get it right, but don't try to be perfect right off the bat. Me, myself, this impression that I have on, I've been building this for about 2 to 3 years now, kind of trying to get every detail as right as I can. That even goes down to the look of the uniform. The look of the uniform is very waxy, very chalky, and that's to replicate the CC2 process. Gas mask bag on my leg, my GP bag for my M3 grease guns, ammunition, first aid kit, grenade, even the helmet net. The 505th, when they jumped into Normandy, they used the quarter-inch British net compared to like the half-inch American net that you see on a lot of units in the ETO in itself. So I've taken a lot of time and research and effort into trying to be the best version of myself as a reenactor as I can. And like Will said, it's important not to go diving headfirst into this hobby trying to be perfect. Reenacting is a really deep pond that if you jump into headfirst,
you'll drown.
Yeah, you'll drown. You have to kind of take it slow and kind of ease yourself in. And again, that's why this has taken 2 to 3 years for me to build. And I'm very proud of where I came from. I used to be a complete farb. My first few years of reenacting, my first year or two, was really bad.
But I can relate.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like I said, you feel like you know everything, and then you don't. So we're here to kind of show you what can be learned and what you can kind of progress into as a reenactor. Because again, you don't want to do all the details right off the bat. So let's see. Let's take a look at you, Will. I am.
For instance, I am, in his unit, 505th, bigger company of the 82nd Airborne. When I started, I didn't know that the 505th, by the time Normandy came around, they weren't wearing cartridge belts. They had pistol belts with rigger pouches.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wearing a cartridge belt when I first started. I've now moved up and I've finally got, rigger pouches for my pistol belt. So I'm taking, steps to move up as far as the authenticity of the impression goes. But I still have several different things that need to be changed and replaced and added. So, Lieutenant, you can go ahead and just go ham and point out everything that needs to be changed.
And everything that's right as well.
Of course.
I guess I'll start from the top. So at the top, you'll notice that kind of what I said earlier, he's actually wearing the half-inch American-made net used by primarily all U.S. forces during Operation Overlord and in the entire ETO. If it were me, I'd change it out for one of the quarter-inch nets that I have on myself as well. But you'll also notice that he actually has the hooks in his helmet net, kind of just like I do. And that's something that you actually see the 505th do from Sicily in 1943, pretty much until the end of the war, through the Hurtgen, or the tail end of the Hurtgen, the Elbe River, and even at Woblin in, I believe, like March of 45. But kind of going down, you can see he has the paratrooper scarf around his neck, and there's a lot of documentation of paratroopers, especially the 505th, actually using it to go around their neck. Sometimes it was just like a wool allergy or whatnot. It was just itching their skin. It was something to kind of keep a layer between the wool and their skin.
Yeah, I make sure to wear it not only for historical accuracy, but because my neck gets raw whenever I wear the wool shirt.
Wool is not fun. Apart from that, he's got the right jacket on. It's the M1942 jumpsuit. He's got the All-American patch on his left sleeve. Now on the right sleeve, let me see here. So on the right sleeve, he is actually missing the 48 star flag that the 505th started using even as early as Operation Husky in Sicily. They used it on like a white armband. But that's easy fix. Again, all of these things are really, really easy fixes. That it's not like, it's not like you're having to completely rebuild an impression from the ground up. The bandolier, 505th guys loved bandoliers. There's actually a lot of photos of them in Normandy without musette bags, without pretty much any kind of like storage on them, and all they're wearing are bandoliers. They loved them. Apart from that, he's got the M1936 combat suspenders on. He's got the musette bag on. Musette bag, it has really, really good placement. My general rule of thumb with musette bags is if it's above your web belt, then it's pretty good. Another thing as well is you actually do have the correct musette bag, because there's a lot of reenactors out there, actually more recently than ever. Reenactors are actually using like the experimental / Korean War musette bag, which it has eyelets for a shovel to kind of hang off the back. But he's also got the bayonet, correct? 505th, they actually used to use the 16-inch bayonet in Sicily, and I also believe in Salerno / Paestum as well. But by Normandy, they had the 10-inch bayonet, so that's, again, a very, very nice, correct thing to see on a uniform as well. And like you were saying earlier, the tie-down rigger pouches as well. When Operation Avalanche came around in late 1943, the 505th actually started getting them then in late 1943. And by the time D-Day came around, there were new airborne units needing to be outfitted for the operation, and they didn't have enough cartridge belts to fit to all of the regiments. And even though the 505th was without a doubt the most experienced airborne unit at the time, they kind of got put lower on the supply chain, and they received the tie-down rigger pouches. They didn't even get lift-the-dot rigger pouches, which were used by them in Sicily. But another really, really nice detail specific to the 505th, I love seeing it. It's a small detail that adds a lot to an impression. People look at the impression, not seeing a cartridge belt, and they're like, whoa, what are they wearing? Why are they wearing that? And, we get to tell them and talk about the history of it. So again, that's really, really, really nice. Another thing that you are missing is actually the airborne first aid kit.
Yep.
Airborne first aid kits were, issued to the airborne. But again, another small thing that is really, really easy to fix on an impression, and it adds so much value to it.
Yeah.
You've got the right jump trousers on. You've got the M7 gas mask bag tied around your waist / leg, just like myself. Very, very common practice for the airborne to do, primarily because we can't put it on our chest like the infantry, because we have our main chute, our reserve chute, our Mae West, our Griswold bags. All of that equipment is in the way, and you can't put another piece of equipment on your chest. It's just not feasible. So again, really, really nice to see.
Yeah.
Now, probably the biggest thing in the entire uniform here is your weapon, the M1 Garand. For those who don't know, the M1 Garand was the primary service rifle used by the United States military during World War II. Leg ties. So the leg ties are a little bit weird on his uniform. Leg ties were used for keeping equipment inside of the jump trousers while jumping out of the airplane. The prop blast, from experience in Sicily and Italy, would actually knock supplies and equipment out of those pockets. So when Normandy came around, they fitted the jump uniforms with the leg ties. There was a huge difference between the 101st and 82nd leg ties, and right now his are kind of like a weird in between, which it's not bad, but it's also not like the best thing ever. We could definitely see improvement there, but again, that's another small thing.
Yeah, the ones I'm wearing currently are, you would have seen the 101st Airborne wear these. The 82nd, their leg ties were a lot skinnier.
Yeah, right? Skinnier and thicker, like really, really thick. But again, he's also got the jump boots on. Jump boots are the key thing for paratroopers. They were issued them in late training in the States. They used them for training for us in Africa and Tunisia. Used them in Sicily, Italy, and we used them through the rest of the war. Another great detail I absolutely love on your uniform is the white cot strap tying your M3 knife to your leg. 505, throughout the entirety of the war, they love the white cot strap. But apart from that, dude, your uniform is absolutely amazing where it is. And if you just add those small little details, it's going to make a world of difference, and it's going to be spectacular.
Yep. And at the end of the day, like he's pointed out, a lot of what you could call minor details. A fellow reenactor, who's done the research would immediately see you and they could point out these things. However, the crowd, which you're, displaying yourself in front of, essentially, you're teaching them the history. But a lot of these people who show up, they don't know anything about the uniforms, who's wearing the uniforms. I mean, I've had, people come up and ask me if I'm a German or not, and I'm wearing stuff like this, and I've got the American flag on my sleeve. Like, some people, they are not knowledge in this stuff at all. So they wouldn't know, that my helmet net is a little bit bigger than the quarter inch. And they come up and they ask you about your uniform. You can say, well, I'm with the 505th. On the 505th did this, that, and the other thing. They wore this, that, and the other thing. If you're standing there with a buddy, I could tell them, you notice this helmet net is a little bit larger than his. This is actually incorrect. There is a smaller helmet net. So you can use those as opportunities even as you're perfecting your uniform to teach the public.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's important to show the public because, again, like you said, the public may not know, anything about the unit you're portraying or the equipment and uniforms they wore. And you could provide examples of, what they did use, what they didn't use, and it kind of gives a perspective to the public. And you teach them, and they gain that just a little bit of knowledge.
The other thing I want to touch base on is, as I'm sure you found out by now, reenacting is an extremely expensive hobby. You will empty your wallet time and time and time again in this hobby. And as a person who hates spending money, I will spend as much money as I want on reenacting.
And then you'll wonder why you don't
and then
have money.
And you hate yourself, and it's a whole cycle. However, you're probably young. I'm talking mostly to younger reenactors who are just getting into the hobby. I started when I was 13 or 14. And what I did, since I didn't have access to a rifle, also most reenactments and events, there is an age limit on how old you can be to participate in the battles as a rifleman.
Or even in general.
Or even in general.
Yep.
The typical age for a rifleman is 18. However, some events, they do give you a little bit of slack and let you participate with a rifle so long as, if you're 16 years old, so long as you have a parent or guardian right alongside you the entire time. And you'll have to sign, I'm sure you'll have to sign a waiver.
Yep. I mean, heck, we even still have to do that at some events.
Yeah, it's true. However, there is a loophole.
Yes.
When I was 14, I started out as a medic. I just had basic airborne gear, a pistol belt, 2 canteens, and I took a musette bag and I put a little red cross on it, and I used that as my medic bag. And I just ran around as a medic with just basic gear. That works.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, I do encourage them to start out as a medic, because not only is the gear going to be cheaper, you're not going to have to invest in, a cartridge belt.
Yep.
You don't have to buy blanks. You don't have to buy end block clips or magazines for your Thompson if you're a 14-year-old kid running around with a Thompson. Being a medic not only allows you to get into the hobby in the least expensive way possible, but it also allows you to have a better chance of being able to participate in reenactments at a younger age.
Yep.
For instance, we have a medic who just joined our unit.
Yeah. So we, within the last year or so, we've had a younger kid. He's 14. A fantastic kid. He's so willing to learn, and I knew him outside of reenacting, and he had wanted to get into it, and I told him about being a medic, and like he was saying, it's cheaper, especially doing airborne medic or 505th medic, is they use the same gear throughout pretty much the entirety of the war, and so unlike a rifleman, you're not having to change your gear drastically in each operation or each theater of warfare. He has the same gear. He just needs to change out the uniform once or twice, and he's set. He's able to come out to events and portray medic. He's researching, and he's, for being 14, going on 15, he's absolutely fantastic reenactor. Again, willingness to learn and adapt to situations, and he's striving to be the best reenactor he can be at such a young age, and I really do love to see it. So another big thing is the price difference in the kinds of impressions that people are wanting to do. Talking even briefly about the difference between a rifleman versus a medic, there's a major price difference in that alone. But even considering like airborne versus infantry, or Army ETO versus like Marine PTO. There's so many differences in the gear and what they wore, and that equates to different price of the impression itself. Like for example, airborne, we were expected to have 3-4 days of gear on us, and so with that comes a lot more equipment, a lot more gear, and a lot more money spent. While as if you do standard infantry units, 1st ID, 29th ID, Ranger, the gear is pretty standard across the board, and you're not having to dish out extra $300-$500 on an airborne kit.
Another thing that I get asked a lot is how to get hooked up with an actual reenacting group. And for me, I was fortunate enough when I first started. I got into reenacting because my friends around me were all reenactors. My whole church basically was made up of reenactors, and our church put on an event called Remembering World War II in Linden, Tennessee. And so that's how I got into the hobby. So I was very fortunate. I didn't have to go searching for a unit until when I was older, and I already had so many connections. But if you're brand new to the hobby, you don't know, you've already got some gear. You've got a certain infantry division you're interested in portraying, or that you will be portraying, but you don't know how to get with a unit. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about how to actually go about that process.
So in my experience, the way I first joined reenacting actually was through the D-Day Ohio website. I was about 16 years old. I looked on the website, and they listed all kinds of units pretty much across the United States and even Canada. And I was lucky enough to find a unit in about an hour away from me, and they graciously accepted me as a member, and I was with the unit for a while before I officially formed what is now our unit. And there's tons of different ways as well, and I'm sure you have a few experiences, or at least ideas.
But I mean, it's one of the biggest things is just show up to different World War II reenactments. I'm sure you already have. When you see a reenactor walking around, just go up to him and ask him, "Hey, are you part of a group? Are you part of a reenacting unit?" His answer could be no. He could be there by himself, but most likely he will be there with his unit. And the next step is to just ask him questions. Are you guys willing to accept a new member into the group? Or maybe they could be accepting members. They usually are. However, sometimes they may not. But you can ask them if they know of anybody else who would be interested in adding a new member onto the group. So just talk to reenactors at different reenactments, and they will get you connections. And I promise you, you will get hooked up with
Oh, yeah.
with a unit.
Oh yeah.
So there's so many connections within the community. So it's really very easy if you just talk to one person. He could lead you to so many connections. Another way is through Facebook groups.
Yeah, Facebook groups.
If you go on the D-Day Ohio Facebook page,
Yep.
They've got different reenacting groups listed there.
Yep.
Where you can just kind of see these names of these different reenacting groups and then just send messages to members, and
you could see if local events in your area.
Yeah.
Typically, there's like a registration website or something like that, and it'll list the different units attending that event, and you could kind of scout out and kind of see, okay, I may be interested in this or whatnot.
Again, just don't be intimidated. Ask questions. Feel free to just comment any other questions that you have. I'll be linking his Instagram page in the description below. You can probably reach out to him if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out to us, and we can even be your first source of information and connections.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just hope you guys feel a little bit less intimidated and have some better ideas on how to even save some money going into the hobby. Don't think you need to go off and buy a $1,100 M1 Grand right off the bat in order to be in the hobby. You do not need to do that. You could be, 6 years older before you even need to buy your first rifle. Once you're in a unit, there's always someone with an extra rifle who will be willing to lend out guns within the unit. So just save your money on weapons for now. Yeah.
Apart from that, just like you said, reach out. It's easy.